Hello and welcome to what is surely to be a very depressing episode of Movies You Missed podcast.
Couldn't agree more, V.
How you doing today, John?
I'm sad.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Very sad, but it'll be a good conversation. I think we'll have some fun with it, as weird as that sounds.
No, I get you. These are both great movies, and so I think the conversation will be good, even though we are quite subdued after watching the both of them.
Big time. I hadn't seen my pick in a handful of years, and I always remembered how it goes, you know, the structure of the movie and where it takes us, and man, we'll get into it, though. Well, we won't.
We
won't.
Yeah,
well,
that's
we
true.
will, but we won't.
Yes.
Because what don't we do here, V?
We don't do spoilers here at Movies You Missed podcast.
Exactly. No spoilers at all.
So thank you everyone for being here this week. If you are just newly joining us here at Movies You Missed podcast, we are two industry veterans who love to recommend movies to you every week based on a specific theme we've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And this week's theme is movies based on Dennis Lehane novels.
Which I did not know that yours was based on a Dennis Lehane novel, so that's pretty cool.
So before we dive into each of our Dennis Lehane picks, we love to discuss the new movies we saw in theaters or on streaming this week.
Yes, we do.
And John, I believe you went back to the theaters this week.
Yes, I did go to the theaters and I watched a movie on streaming. This last week, I went and saw the new film starring Hunter Schafer titled Cuckoo, written and directed by Tillman Singer. This movie was shot in conjunction with the German government. It was shot actually in the Bavarian Alps, so the scenery was very beautiful.
Whoa.
And yes, it was very nice. Very cool cinematography. The way I felt about this movie was definitely in the title. This movie is cuckoo fucking bananas. And I would say there was about 15 people in the theater with me. We all went together. I went on a Wednesday afternoon, and I'd been wanting to see this movie since the trailer because the trailer was perfect because it didn't tell you anything. There was no dialogue in the trailer. It was just images, and it wasn't, a review-filled trailer either, which I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing those. Mm-hmm. But Cuckoo was fucking nuts. It was a completely original story. I did not see it going the route that it went. And I had a really good time with it. I would definitely watch it again and highly recommend to horror fans.
Awesome.
Yes. Very good time at the movies this week. I unfortunately did not get a chance to see Alien Romulus, but that will be rectified over the next week.
Although our listener Steve has said that it was so bad he walked out, so maybe don't rush to the theater for it.
I'm definitely not going to rush, but I will see it before we do our next recording.
Okay.
And then I decided to watch a new movie on streaming, which was on Amazon Prime. This movie stars Awkwafina and John Cena and was directed by Paul Feig. Now, Paul Feig is the director, yes, of V, a pick of yours coming up, and Bridesmaids, and a few other movies that have a lot of very, very funny moments. This, as of now, this movie, which is titled Jackpot, is the second worst film that I've seen of 2024.
Oof.
And I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that Awkwafina is absolutely not funny at all.
Yeah, she's kind of a one-trick pony.
Definitely, yes. There was a whole reel of outtakes in the entirety of the credits, which was about 6 minutes long, and there were some hilarious outtakes, none of which involved Awkwafina. And in the hour and 45 minutes, I maybe laughed for a total of 3 minutes, and it was because of some of the stuff John Cena said. And Amy, same thing. She's like, that was really bad, but John Cena made me laugh. And of course, while I'm watching the movie, I'm like, man, Ricky Stenicki was so funny.
Yeah.
But this was completely different. It's a cool idea. It's set in 2030, which is interesting. It's set 6 years in the future. But this is on my movies you should miss list of 2024.
Oof.
Yes. So that's what I saw in theaters and on streaming this week. V, I believe you streamed something new.
I did. Last weekend, I actually streamed a new Netflix movie, which I never have high hopes for.
Right.
Netflix movies are the new straight-to-DVD version of movies. And
absolutely,
this movie was no different.
Oh.
I saw the new Mark Wahlberg, Halle Berry movie, The Union.
Oh, yes. I just heard about this one.
It's fine. It's the only reason why it's on my movies you could miss list versus movies you should miss list is because the action sequences are pretty badass.
All right.
It's a throwaway action film. Watch it because you want to watch a streamer and you're bored on a Saturday night, I guess. The redeeming quality, other than the action, the other redeeming quality of that film was J.K. Simmons.
Oh.
I love him so much, and he's in this new Dwayne Johnson movie coming up called, I think, Red One, where he plays Santa Claus, and he got really ripped for that film.
Uh-huh.
And he posted a bunch of videos on social media, and he's a total badass. And so he's ripped in the Union as well.
Oh, wow.
He heads up this intelligence organization, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So watch it if you are a fan of him or Mark Wahlberg or even Halle Berry, and you want to see an action film. It's fine, but certainly nothing to celebrate.
Well, it sounds like it was better than The Family Plan.
I loved The Family Plan. I think The Family Plan was way better. That's possible. Okay. Well, then I don't know if I'm going to watch The Union, but I probably will because I like Halle Berry. And I like Mark Wahlberg. And J.K. Simmons. Really cool hair in this movie that I kind of want that hairstyle.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I watched this week.
All right.
We always love giving you our 2 cents on new movies that have come out, whether or not to recommend to go see it or avoid it at all costs.
Yes. I like the 2 cents thing because sometimes if a movie is really that bad, that's about all I would probably pay for it.
Maybe that should be our new label for bad movies. Oh, yeah. These are our 2 cent movies. 2 cents.
I'd pay 2 cents for that.
Yes, that might be a thing moving forward.
Works for me.
Great. Okay, so now that we are done with some lighter conversation at the top of our podcast, we are ready to dive into these Dennis Lehane-based movies. And John, I believe you go first this week.
That's right, I do.
And we certainly want to give everyone some trigger warnings. These movies have topics of child abuse and murder and are very heavy. And so we just want to give you a heads up on all of that.
Yes, good call.
Okay, I think everyone's appropriately prepared. And John, go ahead and kick us off.
All right, let's get in the car and go talk to the cops and see what we can do about these missing children for both of these movies. That was my terrible Boston accent.
Well, you started Boston and it was very good, but then you kind of moved into a Simpsons Bill Clinton impression.
Oh, interesting. I still think one of the worst Boston accents I've heard is by John Hamm in The Town.
Yes. Even though that movie's so good.
Oh, the movie's amazing, but John Hamm, when he's talking to Blake Lively about like a couple of quadas, like I will never forget. I was like, what the hell are you trying to do? But anyway, we're not here to talk about The Town just yet, but we will in the future. Mm-hmm. We are here to discuss my pick for this week for episode 123. This film, based on the book by Dennis Lehane, the screenplay written by our good buddy Brian Helgeland. I've done now 3 movies that are written by him, 2 of which he directed, Legend and A Knight's Tale. This film is directed by Clint Eastwood. This is my 3rd Clint Eastwood directed film as well, just very recently. We did Space Cowboys, which is kind of cool because Space Cowboys came out in 2000, and this movie reunites Marcia Gay Harden and Clint Eastwood. Mm-hmm. This film is also starring Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, Tim Robbins, Lawrence Fishburne, Laura Linney, and Emmy Rossum. This is The Gut Punch, Mystic River.
A movie I've only ever seen 3 times, not because it's bad, but because that's how many times I can take watching it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think this was my 4th or 5th.
Okay.
I was super interested in seeing this movie when it came out in theaters. And like I've mentioned in the past, my mother has taken me to see a lot of movies. But my mom and I went and saw Mystic River together. And I remember in the first 15 minutes of this movie, I'm like, I probably shouldn't be watching this movie with my mother.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it kind of
2003.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, just the trailer really grabbed me. And I was interested back then in reading the book, but I was still, that young and that mindset of, I don't need to read the book, yada, yada.
Because there's a movie.
Exactly, because there's a movie.
God, that trailer is so good. You are absolutely right.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit of the breakdown of Mystic River, based on the book by Dennis Lehane and screenplay by Brian Helgeland. This movie opens up with us being introduced to Jimmy, Dave, and Sean, 3 childhood friends that are going to go play out in the middle of the street, because that's what you do when you're a child. They're big hockey fans, so they're playing a little bit of hockey. They also end up noticing that there's a piece of wet cement on the ground. So what do they decide to do? They decide to write their names in it, because who wouldn't?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done that many times. I remember when my mom and my sister and I wrote our names in the backyard of our first house when the cement was going in for the back patio. So I've definitely done this many times. Amy and I actually wrote our names in a piece of wet cement on our old, where we lived for the first time together in Hollywood, California, on Argyle Avenue. I'm sure it's still there. I hope it is. One day we'll go and check it out since we don't live there anymore. But anyway, these kids are playing around. We kind of start to learn a little bit about the fact that Jimmy's a little bit of a hard-ass kid. Sean kind of piggybacks on Jimmy's hard exterior a little bit, and Dave is a little bit timid, a little bit nervous.
A little bit sweeter.
You can tell he's a little bit sweeter, yeah, a little softer, more of a anxiety-ridden child than these other two. No big deal, everybody grows up differently. While they're writing their names in the cement, a vehicle pulls up, and a guy gets out of the vehicle. He's got handcuffs on his belt. He looks like a cop, and he starts talking to them like a cop. He also starts to kind of put them down, like, how come you're destroying my city, you fucking punks, stuff like that. Where do you live? So both Sean and Jimmy, they are right in front of where they live. Unfortunately, Dave is around the corner from where he lives. And, as a child, when there are men or even women that are exuding some sort of authority, as a child, unfortunately, you're going to, as your parents say, obviously don't talk to strangers, but respect authority, right?
Well, especially because this is back in the 70s, there was no stranger danger yet.
Exactly, which is, of course, one major moment in this movie where you're like, don't talk to strangers, guys. But either way, Jimmy, he's definitely got that rough exterior like I mentioned, and this guy that gets out of the car is like, oh, you're the hard one of the crew, huh? Like he's already he's sizing up these kids. So when he asks Dave where he lives, and Dave says, oh, I live on such and such a street, which is really right around the corner, this guy tells him to get in the car and that he's going to take him home and tell his mom what a little shit he is for, destroying the city because he's writing his name in cement. Well, very unfortunately, Dave does not make it home. Dave is unfortunately held captive by this guy and somebody else that's in the vehicle with him. And what's crazy is I remember watching this in the theater, and right when that car pulled up and the guy got out, you immediately know this is wrong. The energy that this guy is putting off is not okay. And then, of course, when Dave gets in the car and we see who's in the front seat, it's like, God damn it. Here we go. And luckily, this movie is all implied, right?
Yes.
We don't see anything. It's not graphic, which I'm very grateful for because I'm not a fan of any kind of storyline like this unless it's like the crux of the story, that is really going to unleash the rest of the movie, basically, for all of these guys, all these friends. Very thankfully, Dave ends up escaping as a child. And now we are fast-forwarded about 25 years into the future. They're all grown up. They've all got relationships. Sean is a detective with the Boston PD. Jimmy runs a bodega on the corner of the street. And Dave is married. He has a son of his own, and he's very protective of his son, which, of course, why wouldn't you be? Jimmy has a handful of kids. He has a daughter from a previous marriage who is played by Emmy Rossum. She plays Katie. And throughout the next about 15, 20 minutes, we're finding out that Jimmy is very excited because his youngest daughter's about to take her first communion at church. Katie's very excited because she's her younger sister. We also end up finding out that there are a couple guys in town. We meet Brendan, played by Tom Geary. He's been around before. I've seen him in a couple of movies. I just couldn't place him, but then I freaking realized that he was in one of my picks from many episodes ago in Black Hawk Down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in the scene with Ewan Bremner where they're trying to run around and then he deafens Ewan Bremner with the machine gun.
Yes.
So he's a great actor. I liked him in Black Hawk Down. He's also in U-571, so he's in a lot of military movies. And he plays the neighborhood kid that Jimmy is not so much a big fan of. He's, again, being protective of his daughter, etc. So now it is the morning of this first communion for Jimmy's daughter, and Katie was supposed to open the bodega that morning, but she didn't show up. So Jimmy shows up to the bodega to kind of help out until either Katie shows up or it's time to go to church for this communion. And he's calling around all over the place trying to find his daughter, Katie. Very unfortunately, nobody's able to locate her until a vehicle is found in the street with a little bit of blood on it. And Sean Devine, played by Kevin Bacon, again, childhood friend of Jimmy, is called in on this. And as things progress, we end up finding out that, very unfortunately, Katie has been murdered. And Jimmy's not aware of this just yet, but he's definitely getting that father feeling. It's all over his face. I mean, Sean Penn, magnificent in this movie, like absolutely just completely Oscar-worthy.
My favorite performance of his ever.
Yeah, I think it's definitely mine too. Watching it this time around, especially when the cops are trying to hold him back, that scene where he is just screaming about, "Is that my daughter, Sean?" I'm getting chills now about it because it is so real and so authentic, because that's exactly how I would act.
It's one of those scenes where it's absolutely heartbreaking and you shouldn't love it, but you do because of how well done it is.
Oh, yeah. It's cut so well. The camera movements are fantastic. Kevin Bacon just gives him the nod.
Oh,
my
God.
gosh.
And
absolutely terrible.
Sean Penn's display of raw human emotion, you just always yearn for that in movies, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so seeing it, like I said, this is his best performance. I think it's better than Dead Man Walking.
Oh, I've not seen Dead Man Walking.
Just because of the range of emotions that he shows and the position of authority that he has in the neighborhood that's very evident with the way he walks and the way he talks and looks at people. And he's just incredible in this movie.
Yeah, he's great. Everybody is fantastic, but definitely this is like the Sean Penn, Tim Robbins show. Like, absolutely.
Yes, because Tim Robbins is just as good in a completely different way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. So after this moment where Katie's body's been found, Jimmy is now aware that his daughter has been murdered. Things start to crack down into this insanely intense, fantastic investigative story. And, it's crazy to think, like, my wife and I just finished a video game called L.A. Noire, and it's got like 20 different stories where you play a cop in L.A. back in 1940s, and you're driving around, you go and interrogate people, and you try and good cop, bad cop them, all that kind of stuff. Run into gangsters, and mafia types and all that kind of thing. And Jimmy's got, like you said, he's got that authority of the neighborhood where he has quote-unquote goons that go around and start questioning people for him before the cops can get there, because these people might be a little bit more honest and forward than they would be with a cop, because, it's Jimmy Markham and these are Jimmy's guys. And for the rest of this movie, we are witnessing a soul-crushing story about how these three best friends from childhood are now intertwined in this intense battle of trying to figure out who killed Jimmy's daughter. It's truly magnificent. I mean, it is a masterpiece of a movie. I remember leaving the theater and just being like, holy shit. That was incredible. I'd seen great acting before, right? Everybody in this movie. Laura Linney, Marcia Gay Harden.
Oh, my God.
Everyone. Tim Robbins.
Yes.
I mean, even Kevin Bacon. Like, this was the first time I think I'd ever seen him in like a really intense role, other than Stir of Echoes, but this one is more of a human piece.
Right. His role wasn't as challenging
Supernatural.
as Tim Robbins and Sean's, right?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely not. And again, nothing against him. He's still fantastic. And oddly enough, Michael Keaton was originally going to play Sean in this movie. Michael Keaton
He's too old compared to the other two
back
guys.
Then, I don't know. He was already cast. Like, he was cast in the movie as Sean. He did read-throughs. He did a whole bunch of work researching with the police department. And then about a month before production started, Michael Keaton and Clint Eastwood got into a massive argument, and Michael Keaton left the project. And then it went to Kevin Bacon.
I wonder how you get in an argument with Clint Eastwood.
I know.
Given the stories
so
of how
curious.
chill he is on set as a director.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Now, before I get into a lot of the behind the scenes of this movie, because I have a good amount that I'm very excited to break down for our audience and for you, V.
Oh, good.
Since this is like your third time watching the movie, I'm curious how you felt when the movie ended, because I literally was about to rip my hair out. I was just like, fuck me. There's so much wonderful dialogue, and the way Clint Eastwood shoots this movie, cinematography is spectacular. So, V, take it away. What'd you think of Mystic River on your third go-round?
I like that I've only seen this movie once every 10 years since it was released, because then I forget about some of the movie.
Yes.
Just because it's been long enough, not because it's forgettable.
Right. No, for sure.
And so it's a fresh watch for me every time, and that was the case this week as well. I love this movie. You clench your gut the moment it fades in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you do not relax until about 30 minutes after you're done watching this film.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, this was you had to get up and walk around and do some pacing and just like
yes,
take some deep breaths, Yeah, 100%.
But it's this weird masochistic thing where it's such a great movie, it's okay that it makes you feel terrible, right?
Oh, yeah. I love movies like that.
Me too, exactly.
I love feeling like shit after a movie. $1 Million Baby, Spun, Requiem for a Dream. Give me all the depressing movies.
Yes.
Atonement.
And we both love them, but try to space them out enough where we don't depress our audience.
Yes. And depress ourselves even more.
Yeah, which is why we're doing a comedy next week.
Yay!
But yes, this movie is great, and there are so many pieces of dialogue in this film that crush you.
Oh, for sure.
Even in the beginning when Dave is returned home and one of the fathers, because it's the 70s, right? And one of the fathers turns to another one and says, well, he looks like damaged goods to me. And you're just like, God.
So...
And Like we cannot stop talking about Tim Robbins and Sean Penn's performances in this film, and I think we need to dive into the Oscars from that year because I want to know.
Oh yeah.
And everyone, as you said, is great. I forgot Lawrence Fishburne is in this movie, and he's so good in it.
Yeah,
so
he's
good
awesome.
in it. Tom Geary, who plays Brandon, her boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's great. And I know you don't like this film, but he's Smalls in The Sandlot. He's the main character.
Are you serious?
In The Sandlot, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Whoa. All right. Well, I guess maybe it's time to give Sandlot another watch.
And the actresses who are absolutely incredible in this film. Laura Linney is a force in this film, and she's not even in it that much.
No, she's not.
Marcia Gay Harden, oh my God. I mean, she goes toe-to-toe with Tim Robbins' performance because she has to, because she's his wife and he's delivering what he's delivering. And so the fact that she can keep up with him and be just as good, if not stealing some scenes from him, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is why we love her so much, right?
Oh, definitely.
So yes, I absolutely loved revisiting this film. And Eli Wallach is in it.
I know, he is.
Oh my God.
That I completely did not remember at all, and that scene is great. I love that scene.
And for those of you who don't recognize his name, who is Eli Wallach, John?
He is Arthur in The Holiday, one of my picks from past Christmas.
A movie you introduced me to, and it's now one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Fantastic. It's a great movie. And Eli Wallach's scene actually was done in one take, and Clint Eastwood didn't even direct him. He just gave him the script and said, have fun. And they shot it, and that was it.
Oh, yes.
And Eli Wallach totally killed it. I love that scene.
Just put on a clinic.
Great. Yeah, pretty much. That was a masterclass for everybody under the age of like 45 on that day, for sure.
Yes. So thank you so much for picking this film. Oh, God. I need an excuse to watch it because it's so dark.
Right? Yeah.
So thank you for giving that to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The last time I watched it, I want to say, was when I lived in either Hollywood or North Hollywood. And it was on HBO, and I think it had literally just started. Like, the credits opened up, and I was like, ooh, haven't seen this in a while. And I was high as hell, and I remember literally just, like, physically hurting at the end of it. I was good God. I remember it was so intense in theaters, but yeah, as you get older and you start to, like, connect with other characters as you age, it's one of those things where it's like, my gosh, it's brutal, but again, a phenomenally done film and wonderfully acted. And you want to get into the Oscars, so we'll jump ahead a little bit and talk about the Oscars. Normally I like to do that at the end, but you seem a little hopped up on wanting to know, so let's jump in. It was nominated for 6. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for Brian Helgeland, Best Director for Clint Eastwood, Best Supporting Actress for Marcia Gay Harden, Best Picture, of course, and Best Supporting Actor for Tim Robbins and Best Lead Actor for Sean Penn. Sean Penn and Tim Robbins won that year.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Yeah, and I will never forget when they both won because it was like, who else? That year had some great movies, but this was their year to take home the Oscar. And then, of course, several years later, Sean Penn did Milk, and he won the Oscar for that too, which is another phenomenal film with a gut punch of an ending as well.
It is, and I remember my parents talking about what happened because they grew up in San Francisco. So when Milk came out, they talked to me about how they were alive during that time, and they remember what happened and how awful it all was and how angry everybody was because of it. And
sure.
Yeah, that's a great film too. Fuck.
It is. Josh Brolin's great.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Penn.
God, Josh Brolin's so good in that film. But Sean Penn, man, he's such a good actor. It's too bad he's got some problematic personal life.
Yeah, we all have problems, though.
Yeah, you don't hit people, though.
No, that's true. So let's get into some more of the behind the scenes of this movie. We've already talked about Eli Wallach. This movie, actually the book itself, written by Dennis Lehane, is based on a real experience that he had where he as a child got into a vehicle with a plainclothes guy that came off as a police officer. Now, he was taken home by this guy, which is good news for everybody.
Shocking.
But his mother, was extremely upset for the fact that he just got into a stranger's car. So he decided to use that as the backbone of this story, and he went a lot darker with it, but that's okay because, how are you going to make your book interesting?
Well, and that's how we're given Mystic River, so
and that's exactly how we get Mystic River. Right? Yeah. The studio originally wanted Clint Eastwood to shoot this movie in Toronto. We all know that Toronto is a place a lot of productions go. But Eastwood was very adamant about actually shooting it in Boston where it's set. And I'm glad that he did too, because it really accentuates the entire movie. The fact that they are in this neighborhood pretty much for the whole movie. Like, they don't go anywhere else really except for like these 5 or 6 blocks. And the fact that you can tell a story in such a small location like that with such a big story and big performances, it's just amazing. And that's why Clint Eastwood is the man.
Yes, and it almost feels like the setting is another character in the story.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, the cinematography in this movie is amazing. It's all like you said, right when it fades in, you're like, something's wrong. Like, it's just the color grading and the lighting and everything is like, this is gonna be tough. And sure, of course, it absolutely is. And speaking of Laura Linney, amazing in this movie, even for like the 7 or 8 minutes that I think she's in the movie. She was actually going back and forth to London while she was shooting this to shoot Love Actually. So she was a very busy woman during the 39 days of production for Mystic River. 39 days!
Whoa, given how there's only a couple of filming locations, that's pretty tight and good.
And there's no big action sequences. There's no
like major
shootouts.
Yeah,
I think 39's pretty solid.
But switching, wow, what a shift between her character in Love Actually and her character in this movie that she would have to juggle.
Right, I know, yeah.
That's impressive.
Pretty crazy. And again, maybe one day I'll give Love Actually another shot, but I just don't think I want to.
Nah, why? There's enough movies to dive into.
That's true.
Instead.
There are far better movies. Yeah. Now, speaking of Lawrence Fishburne, who is fantastic in this movie as well as Whitey, who plays Kevin Bacon's partner, Forrest Whitaker was originally cast as Whitey.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think Forrest Whitaker would have done a great job too. I think we got a great performance out of Lawrence Fishburne, which we normally do all the time whenever it's Lawrence Fishburne. Especially in Event Horizon.
And there's a TV show called Hannibal that he was great in as well.
Oh, yeah. You were telling me about that.
More recent performance by him.
That's right. You were telling me about Hannibal and how good it was. I've got to check it out at some point. I'm sure I will.
You'd like it. It's dark.
Sweet. When Kevin Bacon got cast as Sean after Keaton left the project, he ended up spending a lot of time researching and working with a lot of Massachusetts state police officers. So he really sunk his teeth into the character, and love when that happens. Again, 39 days to shoot, but pre-production was several months, so there's a lot of time for everybody. I don't know what kind of research Sean Penn did. Maybe he just went to a dark place and, just completely pulled it out. And same with Tim Robbins. I don't know what exactly he did to get into the role of Dave, but man, just the whole hunch walk, like you can tell there's no confidence in the guy, right? Like he's just completely battered down from what happened to him as a kid. And he brings that up a couple of times with Jimmy and Sean when he's talking with them, and you can just see in his definitely in his wife, but you can see in his eyes the complete damage. And that's like one thing that I love about actors that can sell it. Like, you can really just see it happening in the eyes, right? Like, it doesn't always have to be a full face read. But, yeah, Tim Robbins just completely knocked it out of the park. I mean, this is just going to be a 25, 30-minute thing of us saying that all three of these guys just fucking killed this movie. And Clint Eastwood did a phenomenal job directing this movie.
Well, and it's so unlike anything I'd ever seen Tim Robbins do before.
Right, yeah. Even though I've not seen Jacob's Ladder, but I know Jacob's Ladder is a pretty twisted, fucked up movie. But I don't think it's anything along the lines of this type of a storyline.
I think it's just more out there than this movie.
Yeah.
He's in this comedy with Martin Lawrence called Nothing to Lose, which will probably be on this list.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Bull Durham, where he's this outgoing, dumb, really talented pitcher. And there's all these other movies where he's so much more outgoing or flamboyant or extroverted. And it's, like I said, completely new turn for Tim Robbins that I never saw coming. That's, I think, another reason why it was so impressive.
Well, there you go. And again, I saw, and again, Mystic River came out in 2003, but in 2006, Tim Robbins has a small part in a fantastic rock opera film starring Jack Black and Kyle Gass, and it's called The Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. And I don't know if you've seen Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, but his role in that movie is absolutely hysterical. And he agreed to do that movie because both he and Jack Black actually ended up going to USC drama classes throughout college. So they've been friends since college, and Tim Robbins agreed to be in Pick of Destiny for this one small role. And it's on the list, so you'll see it at some point in the future.
Great.
So let's go back to Clint Eastwood as the director of this film. I've done Unforgiven, which is my favorite Western of all time, and then I've just done Space Cowboys. This movie actually revived Eastwood as an Oscar-nominated director.
And the last time he'd been nominated was Unforgiven?
Yes, 11 years prior for Unforgiven.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the following year after Mystic River came out, he directed the magnus opus, heartbreaking gut punch of a film, $1 Million Baby, where he actually did win Best Director.
He's so good at doing depressing films.
Yes, he really is. I'll never forget when my parents were like, "Oh, we just saw $1 Million Baby. It's so depressing. You'll love it." And I'm like, "Great!" And I went and saw it by myself, and I cried my eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know, again, this movie was shot in Boston, and there was a open casting call for background for this movie. 2,000 Bostonians showed up so that they could be in this movie to represent Boston, right? Which is really awesome. I mean, I would hope any occupants of a city would do that, especially when Boston's not used as a plot point of a city in a lot of movies. But it's really cool that all these people, these spectators, they weren't like central casting picks or anything like that. You know, they were all real residents, and I love when that happens.
Yes, I love when a director chooses to do that.
Yes. Clint Eastwood, again, being the awesome badass director that he is, also composed the soundtrack for this movie.
What?
Yes, pretty awesome.
It's such a good score.
It is. It's great. And it's crazy, too, because after this one, he composed a couple other movie scores of his, which is really incredible.
I knew he was a great piano player. I had no idea he composed music, though.
Yeah, I have been in the Eastwood stage at Warner Brothers where he would conduct music for his movies.
Whoa.
And it's massive. Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he composed for $1 Million Baby, and I think J. Edgar with DiCaprio, which I never did see that movie. I heard that was not very good.
I heard the same.
Yeah, I do kind of want to see it because, again, I'm a fan of Eastwood, obviously, and a big DiCaprio fan. But maybe one day I'll get to it. Who knows?
I need to watch Flags of Our Fathers by him.
I need to watch that and Letters to Iwo Jima. Those are apparently congruent, like movies that go together.
Companion pieces, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd really like to see those, especially because I've never actually seen a war movie that Clint Eastwood's directed, and I can only imagine how awesome they are. And I already did mention this, but I want to mention it again because it's so cool, and they're both awesome people. Marcia Gay Harden and Clint Eastwood did work together in Space Cowboys, one of my picks from just a couple of weeks ago. And she's great in Space Cowboys, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's always
been pretty great. Yeah, she's
yes.
awesome. We've already talked about the Oscars, which, again, round of applause for all the nominations, and big congratulations to Tim Robbins and Sean Penn for winning. This film had now get this, for the names in this movie, the budget, V, you're going to guess it. How much do you think this movie cost to make?
With all the names in it, I would think $62 million.
All right, you are off by about $43 million. $25 million
What?
to make this movie. Yeah, $25 million. Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Kevin Bacon, Lawrence Fishburne, Marcia Gay Harden. Those five right there is probably at least $15 million. I would think.
All of them would be commanding $10 million plus for each film minimum.
Yeah. Which, yeah. Unless what happened was very similar to other movies and other actors and directors and producers, they took back-end points.
Well, and it's an opportunity to work with Clint, so I bet they all were like, yeah, give me $3 million, that's fine.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. And, everything else went to location and film stock and post-production and stuff like that. Yeah.
Think about this. Lords of Dogtown had the same budget.
Right, I know. It's crazy.
Insanity.
Yeah. $25 million budget.
Wow.
Domestic box office came in at $90.1 million.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I remember this being very popular when it came out.
Oh, yeah. I saw it in theaters, so I contributed to that $90 million. Very proud of that. Worldwide box office. V, take a wild guess for the worldwide box office of Mystic River in 2003.
$130 million.
You're off by $26.5 million. $156.5 million worldwide box office.
On a $25 million ad. Everybody got back points. Nice.
Everybody very likely got some good cash at the end of this theatrical run across the world. And I know a lot of people actually did rent it because it definitely came out on DVD and video.
Oh, it was huge on DVD,
I probably rented it, yeah. And I remember being at Best Buy so many times and holding Mystic River and then finding like 4 or 5 other movies and being like, I'll get Mystic River another time. I'll get Mystic River another time. I just got to get Mystic River and just have it in my collection so I can say that I own it because I do love this movie. And it's definitely, oddly enough, rewatchable, but like you said, after a while of not watching it. Same with Atonement, same with Requiem for a Dream and Very Long Engagement. There's a lot of movies that we love to do that with. You just need a break from it and then you can can revisit it and be like, okay, good, I got that fix. I got that, little endorphin rush. Now I can go back to watching crazy comedies and stuff like that. The film had its world premiere at Cannes on May 23rd of 2003. Limited release October 8th of 2003, and the wide domestic release was October 15th of 2003.
It is a fall movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So that is Mystic River, written by Brian Helgeland, based off the Dennis Lehane novel, directed by Clint Eastwood. Again, the year 2003. I have done it before, so I'll just run through a couple of highlights of the highest grossing films of 2003. Number 1, V, a past pick of yours, Finding Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, one of my favorite films of all time, and I do love 4 of them, not so much all 5 of them, but they're still pretty entertaining. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. The third highest grossing film, a sequel that I love, but a lot of people don't, starring Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Keanu Reeves, The Matrix Reloaded. The fourth highest grossing film, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Oh, that was the Best Picture winner.
Yep, that was the Best Picture winner that year.
Yeah.
Number 5, Bruce Almighty, a great comedy. Number 6, X2, X-Men United.
That is a fantastic film.
I just watched it the other day after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. Got the title right. And yeah, X2, X-Men United is so badass. So killer. And I think it's that one, Days of Future Past, and then X-Men, and then all the other ones just kind of jumbled in there.
Yep, I think that's the right list.
All right. Number 7, Elf, starring Will Ferrell. Very entertaining movie. Number 8, Chicago. Number 9, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Number 10, V, a future pick of yours. We watched it when you were here. There are now 4 of them, and the 4th one's better than the 3rd one. Bad Boys, Bad Boys. Bad Boys number 2. You like
That's
that?
right. We both fell asleep watching that movie.
We started at like midnight. Yeah, we definitely conked out. We made it about an hour and a half of that 2.5 hours, though. We did pretty good.
I think Amy came in and took a picture of both of us sleeping, too.
She absolutely did.
Yeah.
She loves to take pictures of me when I pass out during a movie. Most unflattering pictures of my entire life.
Yep, and the next morning she's like, you fell asleep too. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, we were knocked out. 12th highest grossing film, a movie, V, you introduced me to when you were here last, starring Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson, Anger Management.
Which you liked.
I did. I thought it was great. Number 17, Seabiscuit, a fantastic horse racing movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 27, Catch Me If You Can. Number 33, a future pick of mine, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World.
Mm-hmm.
Number 35, School of Rock. Number 36, Last Samurai. 37, Old School. Number 38, Kill Bill Volume 1. And the 53rd highest grossing film of 2003, my pick this week of Mystic River.
Every time you do 2003, I'm always blown away by how many good movies were released that year.
Oh, yeah, and that's only just about 35 of them right there. There's a whole other 70 movies that are like, oh my God, 2003 was a banger of a year. I use that word again. I'm never going to use it again. I am over 30 short from 40. I should not be using that word. But 2003 was a great year for movies. So that is Mystic River. If you care to check it out, I don't think it's streaming on anything. I did rent it on Apple for $3.99. It's worth the money. Check it out. If you like depressing movies like V and myself, very worth the watch. If only for for all the performances. You know, like, again, a beautifully acted film, beautifully directed movie. So now I think it's time to continue the depression and talk about your pick this week, V.
Yes, because things are not getting better from here.
That's true. They are not.
Because I chose a film that came out 4 years later, directed by Ben Affleck. His directorial debut, in fact. A movie that made me immediately think that he was reminiscent of Clint Eastwood, which is another reason why I thought this was such a good pairing this week with Mystic River.
Definitely.
A film starring Casey Affleck, his brother, Michelle Monaghan, Morgan Freeman, Ed Harris, Amy Madigan, and Titus Welliver. This is Gone Baby Gone.
My first time seeing Gone Baby Gone.
I'm really nervous about your reaction, so we're going to get into it in a minute. If I can't jump ahead and just ask you outright, I need to talk about this movie first, so I'm going to get through it. But about as anxious as I am watching this film, that's how anxious I am for your opinion.
Oh, wow. All right.
Anyway, Gone Baby Gone also takes place in Boston. It also had an open casting call, and Ben Affleck used local people for all of the background in this film.
Oh, cool.
In fact, Dottie, who plays the friend in this movie, she was a local, and he cast her as the friend.
Oh, wow.
She has lines and everything.
Yeah.
So do a bunch of people in this movie. So it opens up with Casey Affleck talking about how he's a private investigator, and he looks for missing people. But he doesn't get hired for the big cases, the cases that get a lot of media attention. Instead,
I lived on this block my whole life. Most of these people have. When your job is to find people who are missing, it helps to know where they started. I find the people who started in the cracks and then fell through.
And now that we know who Casey Affleck's character is, his name is Patrick Kenzie in this film, we learn that a child has been taken from this neighborhood. Very similar to your film, it's the neighborhood he grew up in, and so he knows everybody, and that's another reason why he gets hired so often is because a lot of the locals will talk to him when they won't talk to the cops because he has a little bit of a checkered past. He doesn't care if you're dealing drugs. He just wants to know what's going on with these missing cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people trust him. And when this film opens up and we learn that a child named Amanda has been taken from the neighborhood, her aunt Bea McCready comes to Patrick and asks and tries to hire him to look for Amanda. She's been missing for 3 days. There's a lot of media attention because Bea actually called all of the media.
Yeah.
And she seems like she really cares about this child. And though the cops are on this, in fact, it's led by Morgan Freeman, who plays Captain Jack Doyle. He leads a missing children unit in the city of Boston. And that's because he, in fact, had his child kidnapped and murdered many years ago. And he vowed never to allow that to happen again in his city. And so he created this specialized unit specifically for child abductions. And he's now been all over the news and talking about Amanda and this missing child. And it seems like the cops are on it, but doesn't matter. Bea goes over to Patrick's house. And that's where we're introduced not only to Bea, played by Amy Madigan, but also Lionel, her husband, played by Titus Welliver. This is the scene at Patrick's house that we're also introduced to his partner, Michelle Monaghan. And she's his partner in work and in life. Her name's Angie. She's great in this film. I love her and everything. And that really kicks off this investigation, similar to yours, right? These characters are looking for this missing child who's been kidnapped. And during this investigation, which is very heavy, we learn that Helene, Amanda's mother, is not the best person. She's certainly not a good mom because she's a drug user. She's out every night drinking at a bar, doing coke. She's got a really bad boyfriend. She is a flake, you know? She's neglectful. She does not pay attention to this child. And this poor, sweet kid who's only 5 is left alone a lot of the time. And she forgets her in the car. And we're learning all these horrible things about her. And the other thing we learn is that Helene and her boyfriend have actually stolen money from a drug dealer recently.
Yep.
So now that is a branch of the investigation that comes into play. They also start diving into local sex offenders. And there's a husband and wife team and their friend who are the stuff of nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
That's a scene in this movie that is extremely intense. Definitely want to give everyone a heads up about that.
Yeah, definitely.
And this investigation keeps snowballing into worse and worse territory. And the whole time in this movie, you're just wondering how the hell we're going to find this child.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And for the rest of this movie, we follow the investigation. There are a lot of traumatic storylines in it. And we're also introduced to a lot of, just like your film, fantastic supporting characters. Ed Harris plays Remy Bressant, who's the lead investigator. He's great in this film.
Oh, yes.
Just like everyone is. And it is a roller coaster of different paths that this investigation takes, and you hope that Amanda is at the end of one of them.
Right, exactly.
So, that is Gone Baby Gone. John, what was your experience like watching this film for the first time?
It was a heavy one, that's for sure. You know, no sugarcoating that. My wife watched it with me, and when the movie did end, she was like, wow, that was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, yeah, me too. Because I didn't know really anything about this movie. My parents liked the movie. They told me many, many years ago that I would love this movie called Gone Baby Gone. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out sometime. I'll check it out. So again, thankful for this podcast and you for choosing it, because now I have officially seen Gone Baby Gone. I loved the movie up until about the final 17 minutes of the movie.
Really?
Yeah, the final 17 minutes just really pissed me off. It felt like there was a whole lot of fantastic substance, great performances, amazing cinematography and editing. And then the final 17 minutes just kind of fizzled out, like for whatever reason, Dennis Lehane was like, I don't really know where else to go with this. And then so did the writer of the screenplay. I was very pissed about how this movie ended. And that's not a spoiler at all. That is just how I feel about how the movie ended.
Yes.
Other than that, though, Amy Ryan, phenomenal. I've only ever seen her really in The Office, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. She's in a really, really heavy movie that I've debated putting on the list called Before the Devil Knows You're Dead with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke. She's also in a great movie called Win-Win with Paul Giamatti. She's a great, versatile actress, but this was one of the first times where I was like, holy shit, she's an actress, right?
Yes,
like
because...
and nothing against her comedic roles or anything like that.
Central Intelligence with The Rock? She's
Never saw it.
Oh, she's the head CIA agent.
Yeah, not a Kevin Hart
I
fan.
know, but The Rock is really good in Central Intelligence.
I know you said that, and it's R-rated, so maybe I should just give it a shot.
Yes.
But, I didn't see that one, but she was great. It was really cool to see John Ashton back, because he is obviously in Beverly Hills Cop, and he's also in a really terrible movie with Paul Walker from back in the day called Meet the Deedles, which is a really awful Disney movie, but it's very entertaining. Michelle Monaghan was awesome. Ed Harris, fantastic. Morgan Freeman, of course. Even Casey Affleck, regardless of what's going on in his personal life, he is a great actor. Now, granted, he was not good in Manchester by the Sea, but that's okay. This movie is great. This movie revived my belief in him as an actor, truthfully.
Okay.
I thought it was a great movie until those final 17 minutes. It was like I read a book last year called The Devil in the Dark Water. Book was phenomenal until the final 12 pages. The final 12 pages were so infuriating and just like, you got to be bullshitting me. This is how you're ending this. So that's how I felt with Gone Baby Gone. And Amy was kind of like, wow, that was a really kind of weird ending, huh? And I'm like, yeah, that was... what the fuck? But I get it. I also get it, right? Like, I understand why it goes that direction.
There is a moral conflict and question at the end of this movie. And this is why I picked this movie. And this is one of the reasons why I respect the hell out of this movie and love it. Because you love this movie, but you hate this movie.
Yeah, I guess that's a solid point. And talking it through, it makes a little... obviously... now, look, I'm not saying the ending I didn't think made sense. I understood all of it. But it's still like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah, it pisses you off,
come on. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? So I probably would watch this movie again in the future, but I am glad that I've seen it. Again, it is a very well done movie. The editing's fantastic. There's some shit, though, that goes down where I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And not even just the ending, like throughout the investigation. I love the scene where they're in the bar and they're interviewing the one guy, and the guy at the bar's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Affleck just like completely takes him down.
Yes.
I thought that was such a badass scene. There's some, again, great, the movie's good. Just that moral question, that Game of Thrones ending is just like...
no, come on.
No.
It's better than that.
No, it is. I only say that because Game of Thrones for the entire 9 seasons was so morally fucked that you're like, who do you vote for?
Right.
Who do you root for? And that's how I felt with this movie. So I guess, I liked the ending, but I fucking hated the ending too. So yeah,
I think that's a compliment to the film.
Definitely, yeah. And I have not read the novel, so I don't know how the novel ends, but something tells me it's very faithful to the novel. I would hope, anyway.
It is for a
Same
lot
with
of
Mystic
it.
River.
Yes, and it is for a lot of it. However, Ben Affleck and Aaron Stockard wrote the screenplay to this film.
Okay.
They also teamed up to write the screenplay of The Town.
Ah, yeah.
It's Ben's first screenwriting credit since Good Will Hunting, where he won the Oscar for it.
Right.
And he has said that if he was completely faithful to Dennis Lehane's book, it would have been 7 hours long. So I guess it's a very intense, very expansive book that we probably need to read now.
Maybe.
But he was as faithful as possible, and Dennis Lehane was very happy with the finished product.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Always like when the author's happy.
Yes, and it actually comes down to most of the dialogue being verbatim from the book.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I'm really glad that you enjoyed the film as much as you could when watching it, because that is the way I think the opinion would go. You can't love a film this depressing, right? Like, we love Mystic River, but it's so hard to love it, right?
Yes, it is.
Same with Gone Baby Gone.
Big time.
And this week we are just chock full of incredible actors for both of our casts. Like I said, Casey Affleck plays Patrick. He has been accused of some pretty horrific things recently, so I really try not to celebrate his filmography, but at the same time...
Well, we've had that discussion.
Yeah.
Separating, It's a tough one.
It is, and I think especially because this is an ensemble cast, it's a little bit easier for me to watch this film.
Sure.
Versus, say, Manchester by the Sea that only has like 4 people in it.
It's a terrible movie.
Yeah. Well, I have chosen a Casey Affleck film before because he starred in Drowning Mona, which was episode 62.
Right.
Is the opposite of this film.
Very much
way,
so,
shape, or
yes.
form. He starred in Good Will Hunting. He's one of the friends who's in the car every morning.
Yeah.
He also is in Ocean's 11 movies.
That's right. Oh my gosh, that's right, he is. He's Scott Caan's partner.
He is Scott Caan's partner, exactly. And he also stars in The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
I've heard that's a great movie.
It's a great film. I have toyed with putting it on the list.
Yeah, you should. It's Brad Pitt too, right?
It is.
Yeah.
He is the older version of Matthew McConaughey's son in Interstellar.
Yes. He's not in it for very long, but he is effective when he is on the screen.
He is, and Timothée Chalamet plays the younger version.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
And most recently, he was in Oppenheimer.
Yes, he was. Pretty good scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's... yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good scene.
Yes, it is.
Michelle Monaghan playing his partner, Angie. She's in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is going to be on the
Yay.
list. She also stars in North Country with Charlize Theron.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that the other day, an episode or two ago.
Yeah. She's also in the Mission Impossible series. I love her in those films from Mission Impossible 3 all the way to Fallout.
Absolutely.
She stars in Maid of Honor, which is a great rom-com.
Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey?
Yeah. She's
I've
the
never
bride.
seen it. My wife loves that
it's so
movie.
cute. I love that film. Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch that one day with Amy.
She's in another Robert Downey Jr. movie called Due Date.
Oh, that's right. She is. That movie is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Marketed as a comedy, but it's not a comedy.
A comedy.
No, it's not.
I'm not ever going to watch that film again.
I don't think I am either. I saw it once in theaters, and I remember leaving being like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. She's also in your pick from episode 33, Source Code.
That's right. She is.
She's good in that film, too.
Yeah, she is.
Morgan Freeman, I mean, gosh.
Yeah, where to begin?
Where to begin? I guess in our picks that he starred in. He's in Unforgiven from episode 9, which
Hell
is
yes.
another cool connection between our two films.
Yeah.
He's in Lucky Number 11, my pick from episode 5.
Hell yeah.
Driving Miss Daisy, Glory, Robin Hood, The Shawshank Redemption with Tim Robbins.
Hey, there we go.
Outbreak, Seven, Kiss the Girls, Deep Impact, Bruce Almighty, $1 Million Baby.
Yes. Just a plethora of great movies.
The Batman series, Christopher Nolan's Batman series.
Yeah. Lucius.
Now You See Me, and narrating March of the Penguins.
I did see March of the Penguins in theaters.
I love that film. It
was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then there was later on, Robot Chicken did like a Batman penguin, and it very likely was not Morgan Freeman, but there was a voice impersonator doing.
Nice.
It was pretty fucking funny. Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
good.
Ed Harris plays the detective Remy Bressant in this film. He starred in my pick from episode 21, The Abyss.
Yes.
He also starred in Apollo 13, The Truman Show, Pollock with Marcia Gay Harden.
Oh yeah, I still have to see that one.
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
And your pick of The Rock from episode 117.
Hell yeah.
Amy Madigan is his wife in real life.
She was so good in this.
She's so, oh my God.
Stupid good.
Yeah. She plays Bee the ant. She was in my pick of Field of Dreams from episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also in Pollock too.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And Titus Welliver plays her husband, Lionel. I was introduced to him from a very early episode of The X-Files. It's actually one of my all-time favorite episodes. And
oh, cool.
He's a guest star on it. He's very good. So that's how I was introduced to him back in the early 90s.
Nice.
He stars in Deadwood. He plays Silas.
Ah, I've never seen Deadwood.
Oh, it's good. And that's why he had to keep his very large mustache in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Because they were filming concurrently.
Yeah.
He is also in The Town, so he's going to be brought up again in the future.
That's right, he is.
He's in Man on a Ledge, and he stars in the show Bosch.
Man on a Ledge is an awesome flick.
I think we need to put it on the list because it's so underrated, and Ed Harris is in it too.
So underrated. Yeah, that's an all-star cast, but that was a good flick.
Yeah, let's put it on the list and decide who's going to do it.
Cool.
Great. Other actors in this film, Michael Kenneth Williams. He stars in The Wire as Omar. He's the one with the scar across his face. He's a cop that Patrick talks to in the movie.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Edie Gathegi plays the Haitian drug dealer.
Oh, yeah.
He's Laurent in the Twilight series.
Ah.
But he's also in X-Men First Class. He plays Darwin.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Actually, that also stars Kevin Bacon.
That's true. It does.
And
wow, a lot of connections this week.
There are. And lastly, Mark Margolis. He plays the husband in that husband-wife duo. And we love Mark Margolis on this show. He was in Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain,
Yes.
episode 3. Glory, Ace Ventura as the landlord, The Thomas Crown Affair, my pick from episode 67. And of course, Breaking Bad, he's Salamanca. So like I said, stacked cast. We love all of these actors. And Ben Affleck really blew me away with this movie.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He also has written and directed Live by Night, another Dennis Lehane novel, which I had never heard of, which we really need to watch. Came out a couple years ago.
I remember when it came out, I wanted to see it, but I never got around to it.
Do you know that he also wrote The Last Duel?
Yes.
I had no idea he and Matt Damon wrote it.
Yeah, The Last Duel is a fan-fucking-tastic movie. That is an underrated movie the last 5 years.
It really
for
is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with
good Lord.
the stars and it's a Ridley Scott film. It had all the elements to be popular. Yeah. But it's
Adam Driver. It is super fantastic. It's great. Check it out if you have not seen The Last Duel.
And Ben Affleck has also directed The Town, Argo, Live by Night, and more recently, Air.
Oh, yeah. With Argo, for whatever reason, Argo did not grab me in the slightest. I was bored with Argo.
I loved Argo when I saw it in theaters, and then I never had any interest in watching it again. It seemed very forgettable, and it wasn't a conscious decision. I just have never gone back to it. I don't know why.
Interesting. Yeah, it was the best picture winner that year, too. I remember everybody was going nuts for that one.
Yeah, and now I need
very underwhelming movie.
Now I'm curious what else was nominated that year. Anyway, and Dennis Lehane, this is actually the third film that we've chosen of his on this podcast.
Oh.
Because he wrote my pick for episode 26, Shutter Island.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The man has a twisted mind.
Yeah, he does.
He also has written episodes for The Wire, Boardwalk Empire. He, like I said, Live by Night is based on his book.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he wrote Mr. Mercedes, which is a great series starring Brendan Gleeson.
Oh.
He also wrote the book Blackbird, which was a series on Apple that came out last year that is so good.
I vaguely remember Blackbird.
It's a miniseries on Apple TV, and it's incredible.
All right.
And Gone Baby Gone is actually the fourth novel of his to feature Patrick Kenzie and Angie as characters.
Oh, cool.
So I guess there's a series with them being private detectives.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And the character of Angie is based on Dennis Lehane's own wife.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. The other couple pieces of trivia I have for this film, similar to yours, not a ton this week. Amy Ryan, who plays Helene, the mother, she was so convincing with her Boston accent in her audition that Ben Affleck asked her what part of Boston she was from.
Awesome.
And because she looked and sounds so convincing... As a working class mom, a security guard on set mistook her for a fan and a local and wouldn't let her on set on the first day of shooting.
Wow.
One of the producers finally noticed her and had to go and get her and bring her onto set past the pickets.
That's similar to what happened to the one actor on The Rock when security thought he was background.
That's right.
So crazy.
It made her late to set, which is a humongous no-no in the industry.
Yeah, it is.
But she had a good excuse, and it convinced her that her Boston accent was good enough for the film.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And according to the DVD commentary, which Ben Affleck's DVD commentary in any film is always great.
Oh, okay.
His DVD... Have you ever listened to the DVD commentary of Armageddon?
No, never.
Oh, my God. I mean, it's unfortunate that he might be drunk during it because I know he's struggled with alcohol and he's sober now.
Sure.
So that might have led to it, but it's hysterical. Him talking just absolute shit. The whole entire movie is so.
Oh wow.
Oh, we've got to put it on.
I always say I gotta do more commentary watches, and so far my favorite one's Tropic Thunder because Lincoln Osiris is on it. But I have always said I gotta do more comment because I've done a lot of TV show commentaries,
right.
And those are always great. So I really should do some. I mean, especially with the 4Ks that I've been getting and have. I would love to watch the Braveheart commentary. But the thing is, it's tough for me to want to watch the commentary of a movie like Braveheart or a movie like Black Hawk Down or something like that. That's such an intense movie that I really want to just watch the movie.
Right. You don't
listen
want
to
that illusion shattered.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's similar to like how I don't watch any of the behind the scenes or special features of any Christopher Nolan movie, except for when we did Tenet and Memento. Yeah, the illusion does get shattered a little bit. And luckily that doesn't happen when we're talking about movies such as Mystic River or this, and we do our research. That's a different thing than listening to the commentary. But
It is, yeah.
I do have to, like, with Armageddon, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would watch that one.
You have got
I'd watch the
to.
Dumb and Dumber commentary. Like, certain movies, definitely. So I should, maybe next time you're here, we can do like a 2-movie watch. Like, I pick one, you pick one, and we just listen to the commentary. Because Tropic Thunder is already going to be one of them.
Armageddon's going to be the other.
All right, perfect. That'll be fun. Just
Oh,
make
my-
cocktails and watch both of those.
When they bring Harry Stamper onto NASA and they're talking about why they need to get the drillers, and Ben Affleck's like, yeah. So I asked Michael Bay, why the hell wouldn't we just train NASA astronauts to be drillers instead of training drillers to be
Oh, yeah,
astronauts?
yeah.
Isn't that harder? And Michael Bay's just like, shut up. And
Yeah,
he
I
just
remember
talks
that.
so much shit. It's so funny. And he's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You're
He's-
the director.
He's so funny. Oh, yeah. We definitely need to watch that.
Ben Affleck should do some comedies. Wouldn't that be awesome? Has he done a solid comedy before? Because Matt Damon has.
Yeah, that's a really good point because
I
according
wonder
to
if he
the
takes himself too seriously.
he
sometimes.
doesn't, because the way he talks in DVD commentary, he seems like a pretty funny guy.
All right.
So in the DVD commentary for this film,
Yes.
he talks about the flyover shot of the rock quarry that they go to
Oh, yeah.
at one point, which is a gorgeous shot.
Oh, yeah. This is a very beautifully shot film, similar to Mystic River.
It turns out that the quarry actually doesn't have any water in it.
Oh, wow.
And so that water was completely visual effects.
Oh, snap.
That held up really well. I had no idea.
Yeah, it did.
So that is Gone Baby Gone. Came out in 2007. It had a budget of $19 million.
Oh, wow.
In the US, it only made $20 million.
Ooh.
And worldwide, it grossed $35 million.
Interesting.
So unfortunately, this movie did not do very well. However, it did make up a lot of that in DVD rentals.
Awesome.
And it received 1 Academy Award nomination. Amy Ryan was nominated for Best Performance by a Supporting Actress.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that is Gone Baby Gone. I'm really glad I was given the chance to introduce this movie to John this week.
Yeah.
And John, would you watch Mystic River with your grandma?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think no. I don't know if my grandmother ever did see Mystic River, but no. As much as, again, my grandmother loved horror movies and some crazy movies, stuff like this probably would have made her really sad.
That makes sense.
So no. What about you? Would you watch Gone Baby Gone with your grandmother?
I wouldn't, though I would watch it with my mother because she likes crime thrillers. I would also watch it with my sister Shannon for the same reasons.
Yeah.
These movies are, as we've been saying the whole entire episode, extremely intense, very heavy topics, and so I don't think anyone under the age of like 17 should get near these films.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I've noticed that since one of my sisters and one of my best friends have become moms, they avoid movies like this.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah, I
involve
know a lot
children?
of mothers that definitely would never watch these movies.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't need to put themselves through that for a story. And I understand. I completely get that.
Same, and so watch these movies at your discretion.
I agree.
But that doesn't take away from how amazing they are.
Definitely not.
All right, well, we got through our very heavy episode
Yes, we did.
without any tears or biting pillows, so I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
And now we can talk about next week's films that are going to be our palate cleanser.
Yay, palate cleanser.
And I actually chose a movie first this week, so I'll go ahead and tell everybody what I picked. We decided to do a back-to-school episode, since it's about that time of year.
Yeah.
I chose one of my all-time favorite high school movies, 10 Things I Hate About You. And if you have a Hulu subscription, you can watch it for free.
That's how I will watch it.
And John, what high school movie did you choose as the companion to that?
I picked a movie that I saw several years ago. It came out in 2008, stars Steve Coogan, Elizabeth Shue, Catherine Keener, and a whole handful of other people. This movie is called Hamlet 2, and if you care to follow along with us, it is available for rent on Prime and Apple, or you can watch it for free on Cinemax.
A movie I'd never even heard of.
I know! I will be watching my DVD copy.
All right, well, both lighter fare, that's for sure.
Yes.
So hope you tune in next week for that. And in the meantime, thank you all so much for joining us today. We had a good time despite the depressing nature.
Very much so.
And please, in between episodes, rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We are at Movies You Miss Pod on all social media. We enjoy interacting with all of you. Please send us any questions, feedback, or comments anytime you want. And until next Wednesday, we always like to end our podcast with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
Dennis Lehane has a funny bone in his body.
I think you might be right.
I don't know. Watch, he'll hear this and be like, oh, I'm going to prove them wrong and write like the funniest book that's ever been written.
I know.
Challenge you, Mr. Lehane. You are a fantastic writer, but yeah, something lighter wouldn't be the end of the world.
Good point. All right, everyone. Thanks so much, and bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.